I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So thank you. Madam Secretary, we have the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. President. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Here.
Division 5, Robert Paris.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Drew Mercy.
Here.
Division 3, Frank Donato.
Here.
Division 4, George Lane.
Here.
General Manager Knutson.
Here.
General Counsel Markman.
Here.
And Holly Hughes present.
Yeah, thank you. Our next order number 4, voluntary public and roll calls. We look forward to hearing who may be listening in on the meeting. So if anybody would just identify themselves, we'd appreciate it.
Hi, George. John Joyce here, reporting for the Actonville Dulce News.
Welcome, John.
White Fence 3.
Yeah, welcome.
White Fence 3, Jack Cephas.
Welcome, Jack.
Thanks.
John Yucasted, Mutual Group.
John, welcome.
Vicki Roush, Antelope Valley Resource Conservation District.
Welcome. Okay, move on to item number 5, public comments, period open to the public. If anybody would care to address the board on an item that's not on the agenda, now's the time to do so. Please feel free. Or if you have comments during the meeting, that's okay also. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, adoption of agenda, 6A1. And motion would be in order. Mercy, so moved. Drew, have a motion. Drew Mercy, and a second by Rob Harris. Okay, if there's no further discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Roll call.
Oh, excuse me, roll call.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. That brings us down to item number 7, consent calendar. We have 2 items, 7A, 7B, regarding the minutes in our sanitation district. The motion would be in order.
Dr. Miller moves on that.
Director Miller?
I'll second it.
Yeah, Director Donato. Is there any questions? It's something we do just about every meeting. If there's no further questions, Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, we're moving right along. Item number 8, Finance Committee, and we'll defer to the Chairman, Director Donato.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Okay, it's item 881, the consideration of possible actions to accept and file the check registry list for the period of July 27th through August 9th, 23.
All right. Good evening, board. So as normal, we've gone through the checklist that's included in your packet that begins on page 22 with the Finance Committee. That was done last Thursday. We go through this list in detail. Just wanted to point out one item number 1, which is on page 22, is a large payment to DWR. It's in the amount of $1.56 million. And just a reminder, this is associated with our statement of charges that's approved as part of our budget cycle. And this is consistent with what we typically pay per month, with the exception of 2 larger payments, which happen in January and July of each year. Just a reminder that this item is not associated with delivering any water here to the valley. They're usually on opposite cycles. So this is just the statement of charges for the month. And as mentioned, we went through everything else with the finance committee. Everything appears to be in line with our purchasing policy and costs associated with operating the agency. If you look on page 26, that summarizes the capital cost payments associated with the development of the High Desert Water Bank program. All of the costs or payments you see there on page 26 are reimbursed by Metropolitan per our agreement. Totals about $4.4 million. And we went through that as well with the finance committee, and everything appears to be in order. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the rest of the board may have.
Does the board want to take a minute and review those items, or if not, the motion would be in order?
Director Mercy, move approval.
I second.
We got a motion and a second. Director Mercy, Director Donato. If there's no further questions, Madam Secretary, if we get a roll.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried.
It brings us up item 82. Consider possible action to accept the file the treasurer's report for the month ending July 31st. Teresa's up here to give us a report.
Thank you, Director Donato. Good evening, directors. This is the treasurer's report for July. And average yield to maturity for the total portfolio for July, 3.519%, which is up 0.097% from the previous month. Average days to maturity for July, 267 days, or approximately 9 months. And total cash and investments at July 31st was $118.8 million, which was down approximately $6.8 million from the previous month. And that's mostly due to the capital component included in the DWR payment, the January and July larger DWR payments that Matt mentioned. And one more thing I wanted to point out in the top section under the list of investments, the Mission Bank money market account is now listed. It's the last item in that group. The account was opened for $1 million. And at the time the account was opened, the percentage was 3.5%, and it has increased to 3.75%. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Teresa, a good report. Looks like we're doing well.
Yes.
Okay, I move on board order 82 that we approve the month ending report.
Motion by Director Donato. You need a second?
Second the motion.
Director Paris. If there's no further no questions, Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried.
Okay, brings us to 8A3, consideration and possible action to award the contract to rebuild 2 ozone generators at the George Lane Water Treatment Plant to Aqua Robotic Systems, Inc., and not to exceed the amount of $411,750.00 budget. And our operations manager, John Bozigan, is going to give us an overview.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Holly, yeah, there you go. Okay, so just as an introduction, as Frank said, at the George Lane Quartz Water Treatment Plant, we employ 2 ozone generators as part of our treatment process. It provides midstream disinfection at the treatment plant, controls taste and odor. You know, in the summertime when the aqueduct gets kind of musty, it removes that taste from the finished water, and it also reduces the filter turbidity. So it's a very integral part of our treatment process. Part of the DBP project in 2008, 2009, these generators were installed. They've worked pretty flawlessly for about 15 years. And they were purchased not through the contractor. Avek purchased those outside of the contract. Fuji Electric was trying to break into the ozone industry. This was going to be their first West Coast installation, so they gave us a package price for ozone generators for all 4 of our treatment plants for $5 million, which at the time was a very good price. Since 2008, Fuji Electric was bought by Meta Water, and they in turn were bought by Aqua Aerobics. And so their Aqua Aerobics still services these units. They have the spare parts and so forth. Well, recently Unit 2 shut down. It had some internal leakage, and a technician came out and said these are about at the end of their lifespan as far as they need to be rebuilt. And so we got a price for them to open both units at Quartz Hill, completely rebuild them. We had previously purchased about $40,000 worth of spare parts, years ago. And so they're going to use a lot of those spare parts that we already have on hand, which is a little bit of cost savings. This is proprietary, so there's nobody else we can call to work on these units, unfortunately. So this next slide gives you a good idea, perspective. This is the end view of one of the generators. That's our lead operator, Josh Ball, standing there. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a perspective about the size of these units. They're all stainless steel. What you see is the ozone generator itself. Out of the picture is the power supply. And if you can imagine one of those big Connex containers, it's about that size, full of transformers, and it changes 480 volts to about 15,000 volts, very high frequency, and that's how you make ozone. Electricity and oxygen makes ozone. So we'll go to the next slide, Holly. Side view. So we get bulk deliveries of liquid oxygen at Quartz Hill at all the treatment plants. We in turn turn that liquid oxygen into a gas. We run it through an evaporator, turns it into gaseous oxygen, and that enters into one end of the unit, passes through the dielectrics, where effectively, if you look through these little glass things when it's running, it's like lightning. You're going to see a lot of electricity. So that gaseous oxygen passes through the dielectrics and comes out ozone gas on the other side. So it's a pretty complicated process, very labor intensive, very use a lot of electricity for sure. Next one, Holly, next slide, please. So you can imagine with all the electricity, with all that action happening in this thing, a lot of heat. This thing builds a lot of heat. So we have to pump distilled water through these tubes. There's about 150 tubes in each unit, and we run distilled water through it to keep this process cool. Otherwise, these things would burn up. Mm-hmm. Well, and ask at any time. You can stop me and ask questions if you have any. So you can imagine all these connections over a period of time. You're probably going to have a little bit of leakage, and water and 15,000 volts don't mix too well. So the unit just shuts down when that happens. Next one, Holly. Okay, this is the other end of the unit. What do we have? We have 150 fuses. Each fuse is connected to a dielectric, which obviously the oxygen passes through and turns into ozone gas. These fuses, a lot of them, a third of them are blown. So you can imagine this unit is using a lot of electricity. It's not very efficient at this point. And if you look, you see down here, this little white material, that's the insulation material inside the fuse. So a lot of time when they blow, they just crack apart and the stuff falls out of them. So part of the rebuild process is replacing all the fuses, O-rings, connections, everything you could think of to put these things back in like new condition. Let's see, next one, Holly. Okay, this is a good end view where you can see the fuse material that is leaked out. And you see, even though it's stainless steel, you're getting a little surface rust here because that is water that has passed through the dielectrics, which I mean, water on the one side where the cooling tubes is one thing. You get water on the other side, it means it's going through the dielectrics where all that lightning is happening. That's why this unit shut down. Okay, so what do we have here? Let's get to the punchline. Okay, proprietary unit, one company in the world that can rebuild these. The price to rebuild both units at Quartz Hill is $411,750. Probably going to take 3 to 4 weeks for them to actually, once they get on site, to rebuild them. And it's going to take them 5 months to get here because they're all over the country doing this. So we'd like to get on the schedule so we can get these done in late spring, have them ready for next summer when we really need ozone. During the summers when it's critical. That's a lot of money. It certainly is. But if we put it into perspective, we prorate this. If you figure the Quartz Hill treatment plant has treated, let's say, 30,000 acre feet per year since 2009. And that would be a total of about 450,000 acre feet. And you divide that by what we've paid so far, including this $411,000. We've paid another couple $100,000 over the year in spare parts and repairs. It works out to about $1.38 an acre foot, which puts it in a little bit of perspective, makes it easier to swallow writing that big check. But it's like anything, you have this very expensive equipment. It probably to replace these units, I bet it would cost it was $5 million for all of them, for all the plants. Quartz Hill was the bulk of it because they're the biggest. It would probably border on $4 to $5 million just to replace these 2 units. And there's really no need to. They can be rebuilt. So with that being said,
John?
Yes.
The ozone was not originally part of the plant. Just talk a little bit about what the ozone does, the advantages.
Okay, so ozone, it's really part of our disinfection byproduct control. The ozone gas, one thing it does is it breaks down a lot of the organics in the water, which, organics and chlorine make THMs. So it helps with our THM control for sure. It definitely helps with turbidity in the filters. When the turbidity is going up, that's the measure of the clarity of the water. When we turn ozone on, that turbidity comes right down. And one of the best things is we used to get before we had ozone, we would get complaints in the summer. Our customers would say the water tastes musty. Well, you go to the aqueduct in August and the water's green. There's not much we can do with that. The water would taste musty. Now we never get taste and odor complaints because ozone just completely eliminates that. So it's an expensive process. It was an expensive investment. It's expensive to run, but it's part of us providing excellent drinking water for people. And it's worked out very well.
It's better than chloramines, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm thankful we never went to chloramines. That would have been a nightmare. Our distribution systems were not designed for chloramines. We have long runs. We have long residence time. We would have had nitrification like crazy. So, yes, this was a wise move.
What did we do before 2009 when we installed these?
We prayed a lot. Yeah. No, we did the best we could, Gary. We would feed high doses of chlorine, which in turn would create THMs. It was a balancing act. We used to try to feed activated carbon to the water, but the activated carbon system was so small. Once you get over about 30 mgd, it just wouldn't do anything. And the regulations, certainly with THM disinfection byproducts, those have gotten stiffer. So we just couldn't meet the regs, I don't think, without ozone right now. I think it'd be very tough. So
I'm kind of surprised nobody's getting. It's hard to get a good deal when they're the only ones servicing there.
Well, it's like waste management. I mean, only game in town. What are you going to do?
Yeah, right.
But it is what it is. And like I said, perspective, $1.38 an acre foot. It brings it into a good perspective, I think. So, yeah.
Is the lifespan expected another 10 to 15 years on a rebuild?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, they may open these things up and they may find some dielectrics need to be replaced. That's not included in the price. So we'd have to come back to the board with maybe a little more. if they find that. But yeah, it's just a big stainless steel shell, and all the internals other than dielectrics are going to be replaced. So I would say we should get another 10 or 15 years before we have to open them up again.
Is this the first time that we've rebuilt them?
It's the first time we've rebuilt them. We did have them come out in, I believe, 2019, and we had some loose connections inside. They were not running very efficiently, and they did have to open them up, tighten some loose connections, tighten some fittings that looked like they were going to start leaking. But this is the first major rebuild. Mm-hmm.
Are those porcelain fuses, or what? The material, the white stuff on the bottom.
Gary, I couldn't tell you. It's something that shouldn't be coming out. I can tell you that much. So
I commend John's management skills, because knowing the problem, addressing the problem, coming to the board so it doesn't interrupt our deliveries of water next year, that you can fit this in before, next year's, demands on high water use. So I personally thank you for that too, because
thank you.
I hate you to come back here and say it's going to cost us 1.4 million because it's an emergency.
Right. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And this is a budgeted item on our asset upgrade capital improvement program.
Do we just run them in the summertime, John, or?
We run them hard in the summertime, 24/7. We run them throughout the year because you just don't want to let these things sit idle. So we do run them periodically at the other plants also. And we will be coming back next year to probably look at rebuilding Eastside's generators and then Roseman's generators. They're smaller units than these, but they're the same age. So we're just going to focus on Quartz Hill for right now.
Maybe we have them guys, since they're here, look at those and see the condition that they're in.
Yeah, we could probably, while they're here, have them open them up and
instead of having to do a full.
Let us know what we're in for next year.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A good presentation.
I'll make a motion that we approve 8A3 not to exceed the 411,750.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and second for board order 883. Madam Secretary, we can have a roll call.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried.
Can I ask John a question? It's we were told that half of Southern California was going to blow away about 3 days ago.
Right.
I know this is a proper time, but it's an emergency situation. Are you guys all ready for the generators and all that stuff?
Yeah, and actually that's part of the operations report. But I can not to keep you in suspense. I can tell you that we were ready, we were mobilized. The only problem we had throughout that whole Hurricane Hillary thing was we lost power at the Boron pump station, and within 2 hours we had mobilized the generator out there and powered back up. So no customers were affected whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And then Edison showed up about 10 hours later and restored power. So it worked out very well.
Great.
Having those generators has been a blessing for sure.
You forgot to bring up the important things,
Which are?
the emergency.
It's part of our team.
Yeah, it was going to be part
Was
of
that
the
your
report.
report?
Well, no, John was going to cover it.
Yeah.
We're going
okay.
to cover it later.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I was curious.
Yeah, we were ready.
The reason we got new members on the board, and that was a challenging decision because this cost us what, 400,000 a piece.
They were about $350 a piece, and they were hard to get because they're Tier 4 compliant, which means in California, forever they're going to meet all emission laws. That's why you wait for the Tier 4 compliant. So the board elected we were able to locate 6 Caterpillar 500 kW generators. They're huge, and they'll run anything we have. They won't run everything at the same time because we have a lot of facilities, a lot of wells, but critical pump stations, we can move them around. We have a Freightliner tractor trailer we can drive them around with. So it was a great decision by the board, great investment. Yep.
Are these all mobile or?
All mobile. Yep. Yeah, we pull them with that Freightliner, and we put them where we need them. If you guys go up Goody Hill Road, see the Leona Valley Pump Station, we have one permanently parked there because that's our most vulnerable site. If power goes out to that pump station, the people in Leona Valley, it's just a 1,000,000-gallon tank. So during the summer, that'll go down pretty quick. So we leave that one there just in case. So it's always there.
I also commend you on the safety mechanism by putting a freeway concrete thing in front of it so somebody can't drive off with it.
Well, it is the Antelope Valley, so yes. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, John.
Okay, that, Director Novels, that include your report?
Yeah, it concludes, Mark.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 9B1, Watermaster. And the chairman of that is Rob Paris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll have Matt do the report on it.
All right. Thank you, Director Parrish. Good evening again, board. So as you know, this is our time as Avek to review the Water Master agenda for tomorrow morning's meeting at 10 a.m. and go through the items that are on the agenda up for action and discussion and opportunity for this board to give direction to our representative. I believe Director Parrish is going to be at the meeting tomorrow.
That is correct.
So Angel put together a little quick presentation to hit the highlights on what's going to be discussed tomorrow. The Water Master agenda is included in your agenda packet on page 58. And with that, I'll turn it over to Angel to walk through a few items.
Okay, good evening, board. The first item that I'd like to touch on is item number 9. And this is just an update on the cancellation of the September board meeting. At the meeting tomorrow, the Hallmark Group will provide an update on the cash receivables to determine whether it's cost effective and necessary to cancel the September board meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that item?
Now, why is that being considered right now?
I'm sorry, can you say that?
To cancel it, why is that being considered?
I believe it was brought up by one of the board members.
Is the financial?
Yes, financial.
Well, I had a problem with them canceling because they're budgeted for, and in their scope of minutes, they're budgeted for that meeting.
Yeah. So the next item kind of runs into that. Agenda item number 10 is consideration and possible action on Hallmark Group's amendment number 5. This amendment is a cost proposal for the additional costs above and beyond Hallmark's contract amount to finish through the end of the year. So this cost proposal is in the amount of $17,705, and this is with implementing cost reductions. The Hallmark Group has suggested cost reductions to keep it at that $17,705. One being cancel the September board meeting. And just as a reminder, there is no November board meeting. They also would like to cancel in-person office hours here at the Avek office for the remainder of the year. And also Jim Beck, the administrator, would like to attend board meetings remotely through the end of the year. So with those anticipated cost reductions, that would bring the total to the $17,705. But without those cost reductions, they're going to ask for the $26,000 to continue through the end of the year.
Who's going to ask for 26?
The Hallmark Group. They will need $26,000 to complete the end of the year above their contract.
Well, this sounds like a train wreck. Everybody suffers except Hallmark.
That's what, yeah.
That's what our concerns are. Does the committee have any thoughts on that?
I believe we're going to have a closed session regarding some of those issues tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow there is a closed session.
Not here.
Not here today, but tomorrow with the Water Master Board.
Yeah, I didn't mean us. The Water Master Board will have a closed session tomorrow.
Yeah. So, I mean, my recommendation is, like Angel mentioned, we already don't have a November board meeting because of the Thanksgiving holiday, and we combine the November-December meeting. My thought is to not approve canceling the September meeting. The whole purpose of the water master is to have the board meet on a regular basis to approve transfers, new production, etc. So parties will have business that they want to conduct and get before the water master. Canceling the September meeting just delays that. And I mean, people are going to have to wait nearly 2 months.
I mean, what they agreed to, they haven't even got much more than a year. I mean, that's about as flake as you can get.
Yeah.
My God. They agreed to it. They put a bid in. Now they're trying to do that.
Yeah.
Basically it's a change order. Like George said, they keep track of their own hours. And here's the other thing. They just hit us with a $4.50 assessment that I got. I don't know if you guys all got one, but I did. And so we're all paying that.
Yeah.
And like George said, they're kicking the can down the road. Anytime you pay today for spending money tomorrow, basically that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're asking AVEK to pay out front. Well, what's going to happen next year?
Yeah.
So I think, I'm assuming, not being actually on the board, I think the board tomorrow is going to take that up for discussion in closed session.
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming. But one thing I would want to make sure maybe you can, I want to stress, in my opinion, that the public should not be hurt in any way when it comes to submitting applications, that there has to be somebody, just because everybody, I mean, I love Thanksgiving, but just, they cancel a meeting, we got to make sure those people are taken care of. If somebody puts an application trying to drill a well, they're not stranded.
Yeah. And that's my point of not recommending or approving the cancellation of the September meeting, because that hurts the end user.
Yeah. They should have one, even if it's nobody else attends except the board members.
Yeah.
The other question I have is, when is Hallmark's contract up?
So their current contract goes through the end of this calendar year. So the calendar year, December 31st.
Oh, this year, okay.
Yeah. So some decisions have to be made by the Water Master Board prior to that on what we're going to do with Hallmark.
Well, they're going to have a change order every month. I mean,
Matt, is this giving me a legal issue? It appears like it's on their contract.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the Water Master Board making a decision on which way they want to go with the Hallmark, either continue and negotiate an amendment with their contract.
Have they defaulted on their contract?
I think that's what's going to be discussed tomorrow, George, in closed session.
Have to do that in closed session.
I don't want to get into some of that in public, because there's different opinions on that. So it'd probably be good to wait and see how that discussion goes tomorrow in closed session.
Well, I know they're recommending an increase on the assessments from $5 to $7, or is it $7, $8, $9?
So you mentioned the supplemental $4.50.
Well, yeah, but even after that, we're paying the supplemental past, right?
Yeah, that got approved. Everybody got invoiced for that.
Right.
What their cash flow projection shows is next year's assessment will be $7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then it goes up to 8, 9.
I think it was 8, 9.
Right, that's what
over the next 5 years or so.
So basically what they're doing, guys, they just keep charging Exhibit 4 owners, the farmers, all this money to pay their bills.
Crazy.
The problem is the farmers have run out of money a long time ago.
Crazy.
So Hallmark's not.
No.
They're just passing on.
Yeah.
So we've got to find somebody else that can do work cheaper.
Well, it looks like they've defaulted on their contract or about to, and maybe illegal.
And they knew going in, like you said, George, it wasn't a surprise to them. It was right out front. They bid against 3 others to get it.
Yeah.
Well, that's one issue. The second issue is, in my opinion, again, speaking for myself, is that I think the water master needs to go out to bid and reorganize the situation.
Yeah, I think that's where I think the Water Master Board needs to get to. They need to have that discussion and see where they want to go.
Probably before that.
To your question, I would agree on not
canceling
September.
Okay.
And isn't it okay if they decide to meet remotely, like for the administrator
Yeah, I think the other two bullets on the screen that Angel mentioned about canceling the in-person office hours, I don't see any harm in that, if it saves a few bucks. And then if Jim Beck, the administrator, wants to participate in the meeting remotely, I don't see any harm in that as well.
Is it necessary for the in-person portion that somebody's readily available to accept an application?
No, they get 90, Angel can correct me, but 99% of them get processed via email. So it's not done in person.
Yeah, so they don't need to be here to do their work.
Yeah.
Then I could figure it out.
Yep.
One question, probably to Angel. Do we help people out if they come here and just tell them how to get a hold of the water master, administrators, and what to do with paperwork, things like that?
So I no longer give them advice and direction in that way, but I do provide them with the water master's phone number and email.
And then they can handle everything that way.
Mm-hmm. And if they have a problem getting a hold of the water master for some reason, then I just they can let me know and I can reach out to Josh for them.
Great.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
How much time do you take a month?
Oh, no, not much. No. Yeah.
So Director Paris, do you have enough direction on this particular item?
I sure do.
All right. I think you have a feeling what our AVAC board wants on that. So we can, if there's no further questions on this item, we'll move on to the next one. Angel.
Polly, can you switch slides, please? The next item is item number 11, and this is an update from USGS on the groundwater monitoring program. So Jonathan Newby with USGS will provide a presentation at the Water Master Board meeting on the groundwater monitoring program for the basin. That's just an information item. Just want to let you guys know.
And so it'd be good if the AVAC directors could listen into that tomorrow. I think if we, I think it's Director Lane that requested a presentation from the USGS, so that's why this is showing up on the Water Master agenda. But even if we want to invite the USGS to the AVAC board meeting, we could do that. AVAC is still funding quite a bit of the cost associated with this program.
The question I have is the presentation they're going to give would be the same one they give us, right?
Potentially. We'll see. I haven't seen a preview of what's going to be presented tomorrow, so we'll just kind of wait and see how it goes. If we want more than that, than what's presented tomorrow, we could always have them come here to AVAC. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Holly, next slide, please. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this month's agenda has a few applications. There's 2 new production applications. Both are for single-family homes, 1 acre feet per year each. There's 2 transfers from Caruso to Bully, permanent and temporary. These transfers are in relation to a business name change, for lack of words, I guess. And the
question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
My question is, I see the 1 acre foot, but I don't see anything where it says transfers Caruso to
Oh, the amounts.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I do not have that information at this time, but I can get it for you.
Well, I think it should be part of the minutes, what is being offered.
Right. It's really just a name change.
1,000 acre feet of water?
Right. It's both are Calandri's businesses. He's just changing the name of Caruso Investments.
But one of them is permanent. The temporary is I'm not worried about.
Right.
How much permanent water are they going to get?
Right. It's all of their water, but yes, I understand. Okay. And then there's a new point of extraction application and 5 monitoring wells for waste management. Does anybody have any questions?
Where's that located for waste management?
I didn't really do my homework on all the locations, but I can definitely get that information for you.
I mean, I'm going by what I recall looking through it. It has to do with some of the landfill locations. So I want to say it's Palmdale, but don't quote me on it.
One of them was Kern County, I think, because it said waste management at Kern County.
Kern County. Yeah, because now they're in Rosen.
Yeah.
They bought out that.
I can look it up real quick while Angel's talking about the next item.
Matt, can you also look up the permanent
Yeah.
transfer for me, please? Thank you. All right, Holly, next slide.
I missed one thing.
The next item that we will discuss is item 18A, and this is under the General Counsel's report. The General Counsel will provide an update on the unanimous vote for the Water Master Board. This is just an update. There's no action to be taken tomorrow. The judgment currently requires that all decisions of the Water Master be made by a unanimous vote unless specifically designated as being subject to a simple vote. To mitigate against any deadlocks created by recusal or abstention, both from both a primary and alternate board member. Water Master General Counsel suggests amending the rules and regulations by adding a new section. The Water Master Council has incorporated the comments of various parties when coming up with the wording of this amendment to the rules and regulations. And at this time, the Water Master General Counsel is requesting that the Water Master Board review and provide comments on the proposed addition to the rules and regulations. Holly, can you change slides, please? So I know this might be hard to see, but it basically says that in an event both a primary board member and their alternate board member abstain or recuse themselves from voting on a particular decision, the decision made thereafter be made by the unanimous vote of all remaining board members that are present and able to vote, so long as there's a quorum. So the General Counsel is asking for the Water Master Board's comments on this addition to the rules and regulations. And if the addition looks good, then they're going to go ahead and post it for a public hearing. 30-day notice and public hearing.
You want to know what Avek's position on this, or what?
If you want to provide Rob with guidance,
I think we ought to stay with the 5-0 vote, being that that's what was originally, it was designed to do. Matt, you have any input?
I have some first. I would concur with Craig's recommendations. I think that when we get in a situation where it's not a no vote, it's either refusal for some reason or an abstention, that we should be able to conduct business. And I've always been in favor of doing a 4-1 vote on everything. And I've expressed that opinion throughout the time I've been on the Water Master Board.
4-1 or 5-1?
I've always thought it should be at least 4-1. I wanted it a majority. Frank and I argued when we were coming up with all this for majority at one time. So far, we've been very fortunate that we've been able to get consensus on everything. But, you know, for example, the vote on the president administrator would have been much different if we had a 3-2 vote. I won't say anything more about that, but, you know, there's sometimes that we have to make concessions that we don't want to make just to conduct business. So we are sometimes, you know, strong-armed by the minority to continue conducting business and not take everything back to the court. So this is just the first step I see in trying to get it to a place where, again, I'd be very much in favor of a 4-1 vote at least. That way, you have the public water providers 2 votes, you have the landowners 2 votes, you have Avek with 1 vote, that with a 4-1 majority, you cover all constituencies, except maybe Avek, but I think we would.
I also concur with Rob, and I'll tell you another thing why you guys are running into problems. This is why your bill's so high. If you table something or it doesn't pass, it's got to go back till it gets corrected, and then it's got to run through the attorney and the advisors again, and you're charging you $400 an hour.
Well, and it has taken us sometimes 2, 3, 4 meetings to work out a consensus on some major stuff.
Exactly.
Because of this. And you're exactly right. I mean, there's at least several items I can remember that we've had to table 2 or 3 times before we could build consensus to get a 5-0 vote. And then it was a compromise vote. So,
but this doesn't appear to be a 4-1, vote, or 4. I think that language indicated the majority of the people are present. So, if you have a minority of the people present, what would it be that the vote?
Well, no, what this specific item would do would be if one agency, and whether it's AVEC or LA County, one of the public water providers, one of the landowners, recuse themselves, and an alternate couldn't take their place or had to recuse themselves or wouldn't vote, would abstain, then you could carry a motion with a 4-0.
I don't think that's saying that.
Well,
that was read. Let me give you an example. If there's 3 members there and one excuses herself, what happens?
We can't conduct business with 3 members.
Well, I'm not sure that's okay. If there's 4 members there and one excuses herself.
If there's 5 members.
Yeah, there's 4.
If 4, we can't conduct business.
Yeah.
We can only conduct business right now if 5 members are there. I think what this will do, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we have 5 members and for whatever reason one of the members has to recuse or abstain and their alternate has to recuse or abstain, then the board could still conduct business.
Correct. On that particular
On
item.
that one item.
One item,
yeah.
Correct. So back to George's question. So we can't even conduct a meeting with only 4 members.
Okay, that answers the question.
Yeah.
It's only on a recusal, not an absence.
Yeah. So the voting entity has a choice to recuse. Both the primary and alternate have to recuse or abstain.
We would still need 5 members. Well, I guess if you recuse or abstain, you could step out of the room.
Yeah.
And you'd only have 4 members present and you could still vote on an item. But we couldn't even open the meeting without 5 members.
Correct. Yep.
But Matt, doesn't that take AVAC's power away with the 4-0?
No, I don't believe it does, because it would be our choice to recuse ourselves or abstain. If we had an opinion to not approve something and we're afraid if it was going to be approved, then we vote on the item.
We still vote though.
Yeah.
Okay.
We stay and we vote. We vote no or yes or whatever. That's my thought.
Yeah, I see what Frank's saying as far as the, that's kicking it down the road and we've got to rehear it. But, to be fair to the landowners, they paid a lot of money to hear their voice. And now they want to be represented, and they want to be represented by the landowners. So when they take that vote away from them, they're really not being represented.
Yeah.
Well, it's only come up one time in the 7 or 8 years.
That's what I was going to say. We've been operating for 7 years.
Yeah, where there's a recusal and abstention.
Right. Well, that's why I'm trying to figure out why you guys are trying to change it.
And it was our board that it happened to. I think to conduct
If
business.
it's only came up once in 7 years, why are we going there?
I requested that they look into it and Gary specifically, I want to go further than this, and I always have. And this is the first step to start building consensus to go further. So I am going I'm very supportive of this small step, and I'm still going to keep nudging for the next step where we can do it with a 4-1 vote. And eventually, I would like to try to nudge it to a 3-2 vote if it ever gets that far. I just think that's how boards should run.
Well, they're gonna be going through, you guys are gonna be going through a possible change of administrator, possibly. One person votes no.
Well, that's the issue.
There's an issue right there.
That's the exact issue.
Yeah, they don't like it.
You know, the landowners can, let's not take a current issue, but you can be, we can get 4 votes for something we all want, and one agency or one vote can stop us from doing it. And then we have to work on a consent, or the other option is then landowners, public water providers, Avek has to bring a motion to Judge Kumar. Then the water master attorney has to take action, whatever action we ask them to do. And now we're up to another $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 bill just because we can't get consensus. And that's been how we've been able to get consensus for the last 7 years. Is I always say that to everybody. Okay, here's our options. We can compromise and find a consensus. We can just not take action, or we can take action with 1 or 2 members opposed. And then the other, you know, if it's a public water providers want something and landowners don't, then your attorneys can go to Comar and you guys have to pay attorney fees to get to them. And then we have the judge making the decision. And that's the last thing that I want as a board, to punt to the judge.
I have a question, Rob. So this is stated that AVEC approved, we agree, okay, a 4-1 vote. And it goes in front of the water master tomorrow, correct?
Correct.
What if there's one vote, one person?
Won't happen.
Yeah. And just to clarify, this isn't up for a vote or a decision tomorrow. It's only being discussed as a update.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there's no action tomorrow. It's just a discussion.
I couldn't believe it'd be that easy.
Yeah.
I actually would like to, because it has to go a public hearing.
Yeah, we have to have a public
hearing. It
hearing.
has to come back.
Yeah.
I would like consensus to let me try to nudge it into a 4-1 vote.
I would support that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, look, can I just,
I don't think I'm going to get that consensus with the Water Master Board, but I'd certainly like to say Avek would support that.
let me just make, in listening to the water master meetings over this year, there was somebody trying to get water, and a private entity trying to get water, and one person votes no, and it's done. And that was one of the ones that got tabled.
That's correct.
So here
I'm
you
very
have
well aware of that one.
the public trying to get their water, and it just, to me, I don't agree that a 1 no vote kills the whole thing. I think a 4-1 is reasonable. I think this is reasonable for that situation, to be able to at least have a vote. It looks so red tape-ish, so bureaucratic, listening in on this stuff, and that's me. I mean, that's not the public listening in, or even that property owner trying to get water. So something needs to give, and you shouldn't have to run back to the judge unless it's just something that has to be really looked at closely.
That's 20 grand right there. Going back to the judge?
Yeah.
That's another 20 grand right there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. To the Water Master Board and to whoever has to run back to the judge, maybe more.
Or if somebody has to reword
Those damn
something.
attorneys, they're charging so much. It's terrible. Record that.
I'm in favor of the thing. I know it's just a presentation.
Yeah. But it'd be good to provide Rob some guidance on discussion. Do you have everything you're looking for, Rob?
I think so. And Gary, I certainly understand your concern, and I think the landowners are going to, express strongly what they feel about that. But I think Avek has fortunately been able to work as a consensus builder between the public water providers and the landowners. And it's worked out real well. And I think this is just another step to continuing to build consensus.
With this change, Rob, would it have to be approved by all five parties?
It would have to be, if to get this changed, the next thing, if we get consensus tomorrow, then we'll ask for a public hearing. They'll do a public hearing, and then it's going to take a 5-0 vote to get this change. And I don't even know if we're going to get that.
Even if you got a 5-0 vote, it still has to go back to Comar, doesn't it?
No. Well, yes. Any change in regulation goes back to Comar. That's
Change the
true.
original,
Yeah. But that's usually, well, so far we've had no problems if we voted to change the regulations to get Comar to write it off. Usually it's just a
process.
Goes through and looks at, writes stuff, and then it becomes a regulation for us.
But it seems to me like any of these transfers or any problem that arises, the board is actually getting together and solving the problem. In most cases.
Yeah, it has been incredible over the last 7 years to see the consensus we've been able to reach. There's like
right. So
very.
It's not like people are doing without. They're coming together.
It is.
The initial feeling might be that it's not going to happen, but then at the end of the day, you guys all talk and work it through. And
so far it's worked out.
Right.
Okay, good discussions. Anything?
I think that was the last item, right, Angel?
Yep,
so
that's it.
Going back, I did have a chance to look up those two questions. So on the Caruso to Tivoli, I think how you pronounce it, it's 1,330 acre feet of permanent transfer and 1,760 acre feet of temporary carryover. So 1760 of carryover and 1332 of permanent. And then the question about the waste management, all 5 of those monitoring wells are located at the Palmdale landfill on property owned by Phil Arkland.
Did they tell you how much you pay an acre foot?
On the Caruso?
Permanent transfer.
Well, it's this, I mean,
it's within the house.
It's within house, so they're not transferring it to another party.
Oh. Well, I just wonder because maybe Avek should have a right to buy that stuff.
Yeah, they don't typically make that public, what they pay for the carryover and transfers.
Thank you, Angel. Good
Thank
report.
you, Angel.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wasn't as hard this time as it was last meeting, huh?
No, piece of cake.
Okay. You're ready to go, Rob?
I'm all ready. Suited up.
Okay, I think that brings us down to number 9, General Manager's report. Matt?
Yeah, so I have very little of the GM report today, so we're going to start with a update from Justin Livesay on the solar or the production and performance of our solar facilities. We went through this with the Finance Committee last week and here present to the full board, just information.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Matt. And good evening, President Lane, members of the board. The Finance Committee has, of course, they review the bills that we're paying. And so they'll see the recurring Edison charges and bills that we've been paying to Southern California Edison over the years. And so the Finance Committee requested an update on how our solar has been performing since it was installed. So we're providing this a little bit more of an overview of the savings to date. And then I think in the future, we'll plan to provide something with the Finance Committee packet that will be included for the board just to keep the board regularly updated on where the savings are currently at. So just to get started, I thought it might be helpful to remind everybody, what facilities we own. So we have 4 different solar facility locations, totaling to 5.5 megawatts of total capacity. We have one, of course, here in Quartz Hill. That's the solar shader structure over the parking lot. That was the first one to come online, came online in July of 2017. And then we've got 2 a little bit larger, I guess I'll call them medium-sized facilities. They're known as the East Side Water Bank NEM array and the West Side Water Bank NEM array. And then we've got our largest solar array, which is known as the West Side Water Bank RES-VCT array. And that was the last one to come online. That was interconnected with Edison December 18th. Sorry, there's a typo there. 2018, not 2108. And so that kind of completed the construction. There was a couple-month closeout period with NG or Optera, as they used to be known, to get those the contract all wrapped up before they started tracking all of the production for the sites. So next slide. Go ahead and click one more time there, Holly. There we go. We got a table. So summarizing the savings over time, you can see the table here. It's got the year on the far left-hand side, individual years of savings that have been calculated by our staff in the second column there, and then those just total up in the third column from the left. And then we've got our Edison costs, which is, I labeled it as net because the savings, aren't shown in the bills that we receive. So we have to kind of calculate that separately. And then what percentage the savings represents as of Edison payments. And then to tell the whole picture, we always still have to look at the costs of our solar facility. So we did have some bonds to pay for that facility. And then we have the maintenance that we pay to NG on an annual basis to maintain the facilities for us. So there's a lot of information on the table, but if you look at the savings, you see the first year, 2017, only the Quartz Hill solar shader was online. It was only online for a portion of that year, so pretty small savings in that particular year. But then 2018, we had a couple of facilities come online. Those savings went up. 2019, everything was fully online. So we start to see the savings ramping up then. A couple of those sites, the East Side and West Side sites, are tied to the operation of wells. And so those will offset more energy when the wells are used more. So you see in 2020, 2021, 22, we started ramping up well production in those years. And so the savings are higher in those years because of that. You see a couple footnotes there. 2021, there's a very large savings is shown on there. If you look at the footnote, that's because that includes a one-time payment from Southern California Edison of over $900,000. So that made up obviously a very significant portion of that. And that has to do with Edison changed the time of use periods. I don't know if some members of the board may remember there was a big rush to interconnect the solar facilities kind of towards the end of the construction of those projects so that we could take advantage of the high rates in use between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. Edison changed that, and so now it's 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And of course, not a lot of solar is generated, in that period of time, but that's when a lot of the demand is up. So that's why they increased their rates there. So getting a little bit into the weeds here, but some agencies with these types of facilities filed a lawsuit against Edison for making that change because it made their projects financially infeasible. And so there was a lawsuit. A judge ordered that Edison would need to do some calculations and make one-time payments to those folks in order to make their investments whole. And so that almost $1 million payment there is what's going to make, what they calculated for Avek to make up that difference. So that's that. And then 2023, you probably remember a few months ago, we talked about the NG operation and maintenance agreement, and they have a performance guarantee where they'll pay us if our solar arrays don't perform the way that they're anticipated to perform. So they did make a payment of about $150,000 to us this year. A couple months ago, we received that. because of a underperformance of our solar arrays. So they did make that payment. So that's added to the 2023 savings that we've received so far. On average, though, if you look at the last 3 full years, we're in that approximately $600,000 a year of savings. That is going to fluctuate up and down. With Edison rates, of course, it'll go up. If Edison rates go up, as we use the wells more or less, that will kind of fluctuate up and down as well. Balance that against the annual costs. We're paying in total bond payments and maintenance about $800,000. So we're paying a little bit more than we're getting back right now in the solar. But as Edison rates go up into the future, I think was kind of one of the premises of the project paying for itself. We'll see how that pans out. But just strictly looking at Edison bills, we're saving 30 or so percent on our Edison bills over time.
So our bonds and everything is costing more than what we're actually getting back.
Currently, yeah.
Okay, the second question is, 10 years, 15 years from now, is Edison going to give us free mirrors?
I doubt it.
Yeah, so that means the whole thing's a waste.
Yeah, I mean, some degradation of the solar performance is built into the performance guarantee and the projections, but
I mean, all we're doing is paying for something to be there because somebody thinks it's a good idea, and that's it's not really doing anything for this agency, but because we went out and borrowed $15 million of bonds, revenue bonds, to pay for this project. And they first told us it was 10 years break even. Now it's 20 years. And I guarantee when we get to 20 years, it'll even be 30 years. And guess by then, we're going to have to replace the mirrors. You'll see.
Well, I'm glad they had to pay some money back to everybody. As farmers, we put in for that interruptible where they can shut our power off. Then you get a special rate.
Yeah.
But isn't that rate deal from June to September from 4 to 9?
Not for this project. Oh. So the RESBCT project, it's got its own, the rate that it's on. The peak periods were shifted from 12 to 6 to 4 to 9. That was the big change that they made.
Yeah. It amazes me how they can just change this all of a sudden and get everybody hooked on it, and then all of a sudden one day decide that it's going to go away. I mean, there's got to be something in writing that, when you go into this deal to cover yourself.
As I've been saying the whole time. And the other thing, it's happening with Tesla right now. The freaking things are burning up left and right. The batteries.
Yeah.
It's Tesla. I got mine in 2013. It was delivered to me. It took at least a good 8 years for people to really know what the car's all about. And now Japan decided they're canceling all their electric cars. They're going after hydrogen. That's going to be, it's funny. We should watch the people who really hurt the American auto industry, but they're going all hydrogen. And we're starting to see plants in different parts of the country, gas stations that have hydrogen right now. So it's interesting. It's interesting, I guess,
Yeah, it just, amazes me, like I said, that they can just do basically a change order on there. And the farmers got caught. I've signed up for it, that interruptible. We shut our wells off at 4 o'clock, kick back on at 9. We've got to have overtime guys come in and kick everything on, and all of a sudden it goes away.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, I would think with AVAC's, horsepower, they should be able to, put their thumb on them guys a little bit more.
Hey, Justin, you're going to start reporting on this more often.
Yeah, I think the plan right now is to kind of keep a running track table maybe and include that with the finance agenda packet, and then like following the checklist maybe, and then having that available for the board.
Can you next time put in an estimate of when we would get payback? I mean, like how long the bond's going to go, what the rate for the bond's going to be, how that changes, and then estimate, I guess, over the last several years, what the increase of Edison has been for us, and then see when and if we would get a payback, and when that would be.
Yeah, we can do those calculations.
And I think the project is it warranted for 20 years on
It's 20-year guarantee payment or guarantee savings.
and the maintenance to keep it going for 20 years?
The maintenance is a shorter term.
Yeah,
It's, we just renewed it, but
3 years, right?
it's 3 years. Yeah.
3-year maintenance. Okay. Yeah, I'd just be interested in some calculations like that. This was great. This is the first time
But
we've seen
Justin,
this step.
we really can do very little about this. We have contracts and the decision making is pretty much gone.
There's not much that we can do as far as the facilities that have been built and the locations that they're tied to. You see, there was a large jump between 2019 and 2020 in the total savings. That had to do with the way that the largest solar array was set up. I don't know why it was set up the way that it was to begin with, but we caught, that it was tied to some facilities that weren't using a ton of energy. So we were able to make some changes to the way that those credits are allocated. And so we've been able to continue to keep up with that. We can make those adjustments annually. So staff level, we're trying to maximize the solar savings as much as we can with the project that we have. So,
but those comments that Rob made, those are good comments.
It'd just be good to see where we're at. Obviously, if we want to go forward with some other projects, we need to know that.
Yeah.
And for you, Frank, Lancaster's working very hard to become a hydrogen hub for the country. And they've been working on that for the last few years, so could happen. Well, the first projects would be selling fuel to the city of green hydrogen to the city of Lancaster to create electricity.
So when's the first station going up?
Hopefully within a year or two, we'll see hydrogen stations in the Yellow Valley. We're the first region in the country that is running all electric buses that are manufactured in Lancaster, and saving millions and millions of dollars on running a transportation system.
Is Southern California Gas involved? What you got with that?
With electric buses, no.
No. The hydrogen.
Hydrogen, not that I know of.
Because we went to that presentation that you guys put on, that the first 100% hydrogen home is being built in Orange County. The entire homes are run off hydrogen. And I was just wondering, that's something you might want to look into too.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
I'm trying to remember the details on that, of how it was working with the gas.
We're supposed to be building a $90 billion pipeline, remember? I don't know where it was I don't know where it was going. It was going all the way down to San Diego, that's all I know.
Well, the state has grants and funding available to help build hydrogen fueling stations along the 5 and 101, because the issue right now is you can't get from LA area to the base to San Francisco with hydrogen because you can't fuel. So they're working on that infrastructure as well.
Japan and both Toyota and Kia and all of them are building the cars right now.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little about the cars after, because I was looking at it.
Trucks will be able to go 500, 600 miles.
So basically, they're needing land without Joshua trees on it.
Okay.
Yeah, start plowing, Gary.
Okay. It's an interesting conversation, but Justin, you have more?
No, that's all, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you much.
All right, thank you.
And next we'll turn it over.
Thank you, Justin. Good report.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Good job. Next, we'll turn it over to Peter Thompson, who's going to talk about the state water project supply.
All right, thank you, Matt. So just a couple of quick slides. We've been tracking the 2 important reservoirs as we move through the year. We're going to pay real close attention to those as we move into the new water year in October. So you look at Lake Oroville, that's our primary state water project water comes from. We're 138% above average, 84% full, and we're tracking just above the highest ever water year for storage. Now we are going to see that come down because they actually have to release water from Oroville to provide flood control space within Oroville. So we'll see that dip starting in October through December.
And we'll see the ocean rise, right?
Maybe not. We'll see the delta rise, that's for sure. All right, next slide, Ollie.
Sam was pretty good.
All right, so San Luis, the one that holds our water, our table A water, that one's 217% above average right now, 86% full, tracking in between the two highest water years ever. We show that we're going to have a relatively dry September, so it'll probably continue to drop as we move into October, which clears up a little bit of space and makes it less likely that we'll get Article 21 water in October. Right now, the last projection was a possibility of it if we have a wet November or December. So,
question, Peter, if they're dumping water out of Oroville, won't that increase the flows into San Luis somewhat?
It could, but we'll probably also just see full take from San Luis during that whole time. But it will have some, not all the flow will go to us, some of it will go to environment.
Right, of course. But yeah, should keep San Luis pretty high, you think?
It'll still be way above average, for sure. Yeah. But we're going to keep real close track of that as we move into the water year that starts in October, and kind of see what our risk of spill is in San Luis as we move through the year.
And do we have some place to put it if it looks like our carryover, if it looks like San Luis is going to spill?
Yeah, we have the option to continue banking locally, so that's one location. We have the agreement with Irvine Ranch. That's another option to move some water into that bank if it looks like we're going to spill. Anything else, Pete?
And we're kicking the tires on some options to move Article 56. So when our table A becomes carryover, there may be some places to move it at the beginning of the year to other contractors.
I've never heard of Article 56. What is that, Peter?
Sorry, that's carryover, what we commonly can call carryover water. So when 2023's table A that we have left in San Luis, that'll turn into carryover water, also called Article 56 water, on January 1st.
Great. We're going to lose it.
Yeah.
I think.
All right. I think that's it for my slides.
Yep, that's it. Thank you, Pete. And the next slide is going to be covered by John Bazigan, operations, to talk about what we're delivering to the various plants and recharge locations, and talk about some maintenance activity.
Okay, thanks, Matt. All right, so on the screen you see our treatment plants here, and looks like the flows are down from last time we met, and they certainly are. Cooler weather. We've had a kind of a cool week leading up to the hurricane, tropical storm, whatever they finally called it. And so we see lower flows, but obviously the weather's going to get warmer. We still have a month of summer left, and we will see some higher flows back at our treatment plants. The highest we got at Quartz Hill so far was about 51 MGD. And I think we'll get probably close to that before summer's over again. What are we taking out of the ground? What are we recovering? How much? 1.3 million gallons a day coming out of the West Side Water Bank. And as Matt has told you before, that's just to keep our SNP system turned over, keep chlorine residual in the lines. We're running 1.3 million gallons south to LA County Waterworks. We do run water once in a while north to keep that part of the system turned over also, but we're not doing that currently. And then in our recharge, obviously, the big boy here is the West Side Water Bank. We're putting in almost 250 acre feet a day which is pretty tremendous. East Side Water Bank, where we're not putting anything in right now. Those beds are, they're 2-acre beds. There's 3 of them. They're saturated. Of course, the rain put a lot more water in than we thought. And I think we're getting close to letting those beds dry out. And then we'll scrape them and deep rip them to get better recover or better recharge out of those. So right now those beds are off. Upper Amargosa, City of Palmdale actually lowered the flow because the water was getting closer to Avenue N, which we cannot let happen. And I'm happy to say they're keeping an eye on it, which is great. So they've lowered the flow down to 3.3 acre feet a day. And then Little Rock Creek is still running. I believe Pete said that's our share, the 20 acre feet a day. And then as far as our notes, told you about East Side Ponds. We're going to let those dry out. The storm didn't cause any damage to any interruptions to our customers, which is good news. Talked about the lower flows. Treatment has been great. We had a short period of very hot weather this summer. And I think since there's so much water flowing in the aqueduct this year that it's not sitting there cooking and the pH goes up and algae and moss, we're just not seeing that this year, which is really great. I'm happy to say. And then we did tell you about the generators we pulled out to Boron to keep that facility running. So other than that, just happy to report operations are going very well. And we got about a month left. We get through this next month of summer, and then it's hopefully smooth sailing.
Question for you. If we had more capacity at the East Side Water Bank, meaning more ponds, or how much water could we put there?
Well, it would depend. Certainly, it would depend on, how much land we had. But I think we could put, I can't give you a number right now, but we could put much more. I don't know. I think it's 80 acres.
80?
Yeah.
What's the pond sizes?
They're 6 acres total. They're 3 2-acre ponds, right?
Okay.
Yeah. On the property that we purchased more property to the east. There are a lot of Joshua trees there, but on the East Side Water Bank fenced-in property, we're pretty wide open. We could do some more work out there and get more in the ground.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
Why don't we just keep that well, and then we'll just get that water down there a little faster.
Yeah. It's known as a cross connection. I don't think we want to do that. Find me working at Home Depot if we do that. Anyway.
Yeah. I was just going to add that our limiting factor there is the capacity of the turnout and the pipeline to deliver water from the aqueduct to the site. So I don't know what that capacity is, but that's going to be the limiting factor.
That would be. Yeah. And that's right about that.
Oh, so we don't have the, even if we had the pond sizes, we don't.
Yeah, we're going to be controlled by the pipeline size and the turnout.
Yeah. That's completely different than the West Side Water Bank. Those are more ponds and reservoirs than the east side.
Right. The east side is engineered basins and the west side is push-up berms. And I mean, that West Side Water Bank has just been fantastic.
It's got to be the most economical.
It is, for sure.
Works great.
It has been, yeah.
Did the earthquake hurt us at all? Because when my phone went off, I thought it was a hurricane. And all of a sudden I see an earthquake. I thought I went to bed and woke up on a different day or something. We had 2 in one day.
Yeah, it didn't hurt.
What to do with that?
No effect at all. We felt it a little bit. Didn't hurt anything. Our HR manager, Patty Rose, was in Ojai when it hit, so she definitely felt it. But yeah, we didn't feel much down here.
I didn't feel it.
I felt it a little bit, but it wasn't anything like the 94 earthquake was something I remember. The North earthquake.
First it was what, a 5.1, and then it came back as a 6.0, or was it all the time? Oh, it went down?
It was 5.5 to 5.0.
Oh, okay.
Well, just a little rumble in the
Okay.
What a day to have an earthquake, huh?
Any further questions from John?
Don, how much water did we get from that storm? Do you know?
Well, I don't know. I know in Quartz Hill we got about 3.5 inches. Pam lives in Leona Valley. She got about 7 plus. Yeah. 7.5 inches in Leona Valley. So quite a bit. I'm sure we'll get some numbers, but we didn't get the winds they were talking about, but we did get the rain. Yeah.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Matt?
We got one more or a couple more items. So, is this a video, Justin? So, I think you've all heard us report about progress on the High Desert Water Bank. We've been talking about activating the site, starting to recharge. Well, that first recharge event happened yesterday. We had Justin and his team and the design team went out there and met with DWR to get the turnout checked off and the meter calibrated. All that went very well. So they actually started flowing water. We got a little video here. So this is about 25 CFS. This is the flow into what we call basin number 6 for the High Desert Water Bank. And so things are looking good. We had to shut down the recharge operation late yesterday because there's a couple minor things that we're working through with DWR. Our hope is to be able to turn it back on tomorrow or by the end of the week. So all is good, and just want to give
the DWR, is that technical or is that physical problems?
Nothing with the infrastructure. It has more to do with paperwork. So it's something we can work through over the next couple of days. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Justin and his team, Joe Roberts and Ben Melendez, on working on this project. They've been working hard last few weeks to make sure everything gets buttoned up. So they've been doing a great job.
How big is that area?
Oh, that area that's flooded there, that's probably only a couple acres.
Couple acres?
Yeah, but that basin that's one of the largest basin. That's probably a 50-acre basin there. That's about a mile long. If you look down it.
Now, do we fence that stuff? Is that all going to be fenced around?
So any of the access roads are going to have gates on them, but to fence 7 or 1,200 acres, we haven't planned on that. So right now we're just planning gates at any of the access roads. So good progress there, and good job to the whole team to finally meet this milestone.
You sure that was already half full from the race?
Yeah. I told Justin, hope it percolates. So upcoming events, obviously we have the Water Master meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock here at Avek or online. We have the Labor Day holiday on September 4th. Metropolitan Water District is scheduled to go to their board to get approval for the increased capital cost on September 12th. And all things look favorable for that to happen. So we'll keep you posted if that changes. And then AVAC is going to host a CSDA chapter luncheon here on October 12th, 2023 at 11 a.m. So if you'd like to go to that, just let Holly know and she'll get you registered. So that's all I have today, unless you have any questions.
Okay, any questions from the board?
So are we going to be banking now from now on?
Yeah, as soon as we get the okay from DWR next couple of days, fingers crossed, we'll be banking. So we would bank AVAC's water up until September 12th. And then once Met gives us the go ahead, then it would be Metropolitan's water bank from that point on.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
That'll move us to item number 10. If any director has any report, anything they'd like to report with the agency. Number 11, attorney's report.
No report, George.
Number 12, request for future agenda items. Matt, we need to go into closed session. Is that correct?
We do for items A and B.
Okay. Okay. I think a motion would be in order to go in closed session.
I move to go in closed session.
Director Donato. Director Miller. Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, motion carried. If we could take a 5-minute break.
So what's